Those of the Númenóreans who were saved from destruction, which is Erendil, the guy we saw, and his son Isildur, fled eastward as is told in the Akalabeth, which we have not read. The chief of these were, I just told you, Elendil the Tall, and his sons Isildur and Anarion. We haven't seen Anarion, I don't think. We've seen Isildur.
No, that name doesn't ring a bell,
We have
so
not seen him
I
in the
don't
show.
think so.
Kinsmen of the king they were, descendants of Elros, so they're related to Elrond, like I had explained to you last time. But they had been unwilling to listen to Sauron, and had refused to make war on the lords of the West. Manning their ships with all who remained faithful, they forsook the land of Numenor ere ruin came upon it. They were mighty men, and their ships were strong and tall, but the tempests overtook them, and they were borne aloft on hills of water even to the clouds, and they descended upon Middle Earth like birds of the storm. Elendil was up by the waves in the land of Lindon, and he was befriended by Gilgalad. Okay. Thence he passed up the river Lune, and beyond Ered Luin he established his realm, and his people dwelt in many places in Eriador, about the courses of the Lune and the Baranduin. But his chief city was at Anuminas, beside the water of Lake Nenuyal. So these are the ancestors of like Aragorn when we get to Lord of the Rings. Remember Aragorn?
Yeah.
And also the ancestors of Gondor, the entire culture. We're gonna see how that happens. His chief city. Okay, we said that at Fornost, upon the North Downs, also the Númenóreans dwelt, and in Cardolan, and in the hills of Rudaur, and towers they raised upon Emin Beraid and upon Amon Sul, and there remain many barrows and ruined works in those places. But the towers of Emin Beraid still look towards the sea. Isildur and Anarion, the two brothers, were borne away southwards, and at last they brought their ships up the great river Anduin that flows out of Rovanion into the western sea in the bay of Belfalas, and they established a realm in those lands that were after called
Uh.
Gondor. Gondor,
Oh. Oh. Okay.
whereas the northern kingdom was
What?
named
The what kingdom?
the
I
northern,
didn't hear
the
it.
kingdom of the north.
Oh fuck! We said it. We said it.
Arnor,
Oh,
Arnor.
Arnor.
Long
I
before
knew that.
Long before, in the days of their power, the mariners of Numenor had established a haven and strong places about the mouth of Anduin, in despite of Sauron, in the black land that lay nigh upon the east. In the later days, to this haven came only the faithful of Numenor, and many therefore of the folk of the coastlands in that region were in whole or in part akin to the elf friends and the people of Elendil, and they welcomed his sons. The chief city of this southern realm was Osgiliath, through the midst of which the great river flowed, and the Númenóreans built there a great bridge, upon which there were towers and houses of stone wonderful to behold, and tall ships came up out of the sea to the quays of the city. Other strong places they built also upon either hand. Minas Ithil, the tower of the rising moon, eastward upon a shoulder of the mountains of shadow, as a threat to Mordor, and to the west Minas Anor, the tower of the setting sun, at the feet of Mount Mindoluin, as a shield against the wild men of the dales. In Minas Ithil was the house of Isildur, and in Minas Anor the house of Anarion. But they shared the realm between them, and their thrones were set side by side in the great hall of Osgiliath. So it was like brother kings. These were the chief dwelling.
Yeah. Into different places.
Yeah, these were the chief dwellings of the Númenóreans in Gondor. But other works marvelous and strong they built in the land in the days of their power, at the Argonath, and at Aglarond, and at Erech, and in the circle of Angrenost, which men called Isengard, They made the pinnacle of Orthanc of unbreakable stone, which in Lord of the Rings is inhabited by Saruman. Somehow Saruman took that over.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. Many treasures and great heirlooms of virtue and wonder the exiled had brought from Numenor. And of these, the most renowned were the seven stones, which is, remember the stone that they just stole from her? The Palantir?
Yeah. Yeah,
There
yeah,
were
yeah.
seven
Mm-hmm.
stones. And the white tree, which is the descendant of like the holy tree from like Valinor. The white tree was grown from the fruit of Nimloth the Fair. That's basically what I just said. That stood in the courts of the
Mm-hmm.
king at Armenelos in Numenor. Ere Sauron burned it. Remember they showed it in the last season, that tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
The yeah, yeah,
You remember
yeah.
that tree?
I think I remember the tree.
Sauron is
The
gonna.
big one.
There was a big tree, and it's supposed to be like
Mm-hmm.
the baby daughter of an older tree, going all the way back to the first tree, in the
Damn.
yeah,
Okay.
that's why it's important. So from 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 the land of the gods, it came to Numenor, and then from Numenor they brought the seed to Gondor, which is there by the time of Lord of the Rings. Um, so Nimloth the Fair was the name of the tree before, that stood in the courts of the king at Armenelos in Numenor ere Sauron burned it. So I guess Sauron is going to burn that tree. Spoiler. And
Ooh,
Nimloth was in
I'm
its
gonna see
turn
that.
descended from the tree of Tirion, that was an image of the eldest of trees, White Telperion, which Yavanna caused to grow in the land of the Valar. So this is like fourth generation tree, just so you know. The tree,
Yeah, wow.
the
See
tree
the
memorial of the Eldar and of the light of Valinor was planted in Minas Ithil before the house of Isildur, since he it was that had saved the fruit from destruction. But the stones were divided. So Isildur in the show should be the one that when Sauron burns the tree, he's the one that saves it by taking its seed from Numenor before it sinks. The stones were divided.
mm-hmm.
Now here's the division of the stones. 3 Elendil took, and his sons each 2. Those of Elendil were set in towers upon Emin Beraid, and upon Amon Sul, and in the city of Anuminas. But those of his sons were at Minas Ithil and Minas Anor, and at Orthanc, which it still is in the time of Saruman, and in Osgiliath. Now these stones had this virtue, that those who looked therein, mind you, they don't say who made the stones. I don't think he says who made the stones, but uh, those who looked therein might perceive in them things far off, whether in place or in time. Got it? For the most part, they
Mm-hmm.
revealed for the most part they revealed only things near to another kindred stone, for the stones each called to each. But those who possessed great strength of will and of mind might learn to direct their gaze whither they would. Thus the Numenorians were aware of many things that their enemies wished to conceal, and little escaped their vigilance in the days of their might. So it's kind of like
Oh,
I hate it.
okay.
It's
It's
like
like
Starlink.
you gotta focus basically.
Yes, and you can see so it's like having
Cool.
satellites in. It's the
Yeah.
mythological version of a satellite, maybe. It is said that the towers of Emen Bereid were not built indeed by the exiles of Numenor, but were raised by Gilgalad for Elendil, his friend. And the seeing stone of Emen Bereid was set in Elostirion, the tallest of the towers. Thither Elendil would repair, and thence he would gaze out over the sundering seas, when the yearning of exile was upon him. And it is believed that thus he would at whiles see far away even the tower of Avalon upon Eresia, where the Master Stone abode. Master Stone? So it comes all the way from the land of the gods? The Master Stone is there, and it yet abides. I guess so. Oh, here we go. Now we have this.
Wow.
Here's the answer. These stones were gifts of the Eldar to Amandil, who was the father of Elendil, for the comfort of the faithful of Numenor in their dark days, when the elves might come no longer to that
Okay.
land under the shadow of Sauron. They were called the Palantiri, those that watch from afar, but all those that were brought to Middle-earth long ago were lost. Womp womp.
Wow,
It's a
okay.
lot of background, see?
So they're gone. Yeah, tons of background,
Well,
but
right now,
that's really
right now at
interesting
this
to
point
know.
of the story, they're not even. I don't even know why she has one because they just said here. See again, they broke with the story. They said here that the stones were a gifts to Elendil by the elves, and this
Okay.
meaning this happens after Numenor sinks, so they shouldn't have Palantir in Numenor technically. That was a gift that
Oh.
yeah, so that's wrong. So that's wrong.
Okay, well,
She's
okay.
not even supposed to have it.